My name is Alexandra. I am your humble webinar moderator for this morning, afternoon, or evening session, depending on where in the world you are. I'm happy to introduce Bernadette to you. She's going to be leading us in our third of this series on ethics and governance with AI. Please feel free during this session to come off mute at any time to share questions, comments, concerns, or queries. If you are unable to come off mute, you can always respond in the chat. This is a very participatory, open forum for all things around ethical governance in AI, which to me is a very interesting topic. This is going to be a live streamed program, so I just want to let you know that we will be live streaming in case that there's any discomfort around that as well. And other than that, please, before you leave, fill out our feedback form. It's recommended because it helps us get better at what we do. Other than that, I warmly welcome Bernadette. So happy to have you here again and to enjoy your webinar.
Thank you. I'm glad to be back again, and I'm glad to see so many people on here. Thank you. Today's session is really a lot about thinking. When you think about the framework and whatnot, let me just go ahead and put it on screen so I can share it. Where did I have it? Is this one? Oops. Hold on. There it is. Yeah. I moved ahead of myself, sorry. Okay. AI ethics, impact, and fairness. So I think this is really a great topic, especially right now, with governance being an important element as you move forward in business. But most importantly, you need to think about the ethics portion of it as well. I think that this year they're making sure that we are in alignment, and that most people should look and make sure that they are doing and entering this in their businesses, because it's going to impact later on. It's making sure that you're aware, you know what's going on, and asking those hard questions that are sometimes difficult to ask. So I don't know why I keep going in and out of this. Hold on. There. Can you see it? Are you seeing it? Just because I don't.
I see Module 3, AI ethics, human impact, and fairness.
Okay, I guess I don't see it on my end because I don't know why. Hold on. There it is. Okay, now sure. And that snoring in the background is my dog, so bear with me. I have a very old dog. It is not me. So screen sharing. Okay, let's just do screen sharing here. I do not see it on my end. Let me see. I'm not in presentation mode. So here, share. Hold on.
Oh, Paul, 14. Amazing. Wow.
14 what?
Years old, the dog.
Oh, he's an old dog. Mine is an old dog. Okay, so let's share it.
Would you prefer that I share and
Why don't you go ahead and share?
worry
I'm
about
sorry.
it? Okay.
I don't know why it's
Yeah,
not
no
sharing.
worries. Let me just set up real quick, everybody.
Oh, maybe this is it. Okay, I don't know why it's not coming up.
It's probably on your secondary screen.
Is that what it is?
It probably, yeah. Because we do see your screens.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah, we do see it. So if you don't see it, it's probably just not on your, hold on 1 second. Okay. All righty.
There. Are you
I'm about to share, so hold on one
okay.
moment. Thanks everyone for your
Thank
patience.
you. I appreciate that. I was like, I can see it here now. So if you did that or I did that, I'm not sure, but oops.
All right, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Great. All right.
Thank you.
Bernadette,
Oh,
go ahead. Just say next slide when you're ready.
okay. AI ethics, human impact and fairness. Like I said, who gets harmed when AI goes wrong? How do we build systems that treat everyone fairly? And the module explores the human consequences of the heart. And I say the heart with ethical AI design because sometimes we do not say what we think. We think it, but we never say, you shouldn't be doing that, or have you thought about this? This is the part where we really need to think about asking the questions. Okay, next one, please. Okay, we're going to learn today. There's 6 portions of it: bias, discrimination, privacy, consent, transparency, and explainability, human in the loop, that is us, and when and why humans stay in control, and the ethical red flags that we need to make sure that we see as uh, the red flags there so that you're aware. And like I say, this is the year where they're going to be asking for much more transparency than they ever have before. So that is a very important step for people to start doing in their businesses and any projects that you're working on. Governance portion of it and making sure that the ethics portion is there as well. Okay. So where does bias come from? Historical data. And there's data biases because it can be, again, we can be biased against, let's just say this is all about men, it's all about women. It could be age, it could be discrimination. There's a lot of different historical data biases that they have done in the future, had done previously. And then that brought out a lot of issues regarding this: measurement bias, aggregation, evaluation, and deployment biases. So that's where all of these come from. And there in this next slide, you're going to see the various ones that we're all a little bit more familiar with. Next. So the privacy consent, I guess it's not this one, it's the next one, but this works. AI systems, for key privacy risks, I don't know if many of you remember when they did the facial recognition without knowledge or consent from the public. They just did it and they started that. And then people were upset about it when it came to light. But this is basically when they started doing a lot of experiments and a lot of uh, data regarding, the color, regarding men and women, regarding the facial recognition, health and financial data. And that's another important one because health and financial data, these are all things that are private and we want to keep that private. We can have behavioral data out there so that and facial recognition, all of the things that they have out there that we did not agree to in the beginning. And this is really what's made the difference in the here and the now. Would many of you agree with that portion of it? Because they have so many things that we're not aware of. And then when we do find out, we're a little bit upset. So those are some of the biggest things. We need to be informed and understand what data is collected and why. Voluntary consent is freely given. Coerced by gatekeeping. Granular, specific users, revocable, and proportionate. And only necessary data is collected. So when you go to the doctor, and let's just say that you decide to be part of an experiment, they have a diabetes experiment, and they ask if you'd like to be a part of it. And you say yes, you're consenting, right? And what they're doing is they're asking you these questions, making sure they're verifying, checking that the information that they need, but you've consented to that. But let's just say that they did this 20 years ago with that same data and never asked if I wanted my information there or never asked if I consented to it. I was just part of a panel and I did not consent to that. Those are the differences from then to now. And it's really important to know what is happening in those particular areas. So, especially used to be was remember when the banks they had their own data thing going on, and if you fell within um, a certain demographics, it was okay for them to loan you money. Maybe you weren't so risky and based on your race. Those were issues back then. It was very interesting how they determined those kinds of things. And there again, it was based on the information that they had, not our consented information. You know, we go in and we do analysis of many kinds, but when you use that data to turn it against other people or to discriminate because of your race, color, age, then that's an issue. So privacy and consent is about keeping the secrets secret, but letting you know that it's okay that for them to utilize your information. How many of you have had that experience or know people who have gone through that? Is there anybody who's experienced any of that? And data retention, that's correct. Mine is 14. So let's see. Any questions on that one? Okay, just data retention. I agree. So those are issues that are going on right now. Let's go to the next one. Clear view. These are the real case studies for AI and facial recognition. So what happened? They covered over 30 billion photos from social media without consent, building facial recognition, database used by law enforcement agencies, individuals who had no knowledge their images were being used. And that all kind of started too, was they started with that. And then what happened was as time went on, they started with the cameras and then they had them really public. So then they let you know they're taking your pictures somewhere along the line and dependent on what country you went into. And when you go to Europe, they have a lot of cameras there and they utilize that information and they do a lot of tracking. And some things they are much more advanced than we are here in those particular areas. So many countries issued cease and desist orders on multi-million-dollar fines where they were exposed. They did not like it. It was an invasion of their privacy, and not just at an individual level. You know, it's your family, it's your personal business, a lot of things, and they didn't consent. They didn't ask. They just started that, and that was really what they should have done was just said, we're going to use it because moving forward, let's say we want to find people who are, let's just say, who had been released from jail or escaped, and we need that as an example to go and find them and put their pictures everywhere and use it and whatnot, different things like that. But they never did that. So the scale amplifies harm. So what it is, minor privacy violation for one person becomes a systematic rights issue when applied to billions. So everybody was involved in this, and not everybody meaning all of us, they didn't have our consent. But the frameworks and how the data was aggregated and cross-referenced from multiple agencies to get this information, it made a big difference. And that's what people were upset about. So when you're going through and you're deciding that you want to start setting up systems and putting this kind of information in place, you need some oversight and governance there to see what they're doing, and that human oversight person to know what they're doing and making sure how it affects the other parts of an individual's lives and the laws, and that as we do step by step, we slowly start releasing it so people understand what's going on. Well, now that already happened. So it just happened whether we agreed with it or not. And that started creating issues in the governance portion of it, the ethical portion of it. And now they're requiring some oversight, not some, a lot of human oversight to make sure that we are following the rules, that these things need to people need to pay attention to it. And that it also means that if they're going to do something, we need to know. If you're using my name in a study specifically, let's just say I'm the rare human being and I had a study going on and I was different from 10,000 applicants and they wanted to use me, but they never asked my permission. And later on, I found out they gave all my information. They used it because I was that 1% or less than 1%. That's really not the way we want to do things. We need to make sure that we are transparent in what we are doing right now because we're not. And that's where we're falling short. Any questions on this? Have any of you had that experience or
I have a question. You had
Mhm.
mentioned that, in Europe there's a lot of
Cameras?
it's the like CCTV stuff like that. That's kind of old hat.
Yeah, exactly.
How was Europe able to get to that point, and how does that compare to like the way that it would be sold in America?
Well, I think what they did back then was Europe uses the EUI system and they followed a framework, and they're probably better at that than we are in the United States. So when they decided to do that, let's just say that you had all of their FBI, their police, their system, they got together and said, this is what we need to do. They were transparent about what they were doing and the problems they were having, and they worked together as a team to push that through. It didn't just decide, okay, we're going to get this, we're just going to do it. And then these are the reasons why we did it. So we went by, we made sure that we had cameras because we need to see what's going on. We have a lot let's just say we have a lot of violence or we have a lot of people coming through that shouldn't be coming through, but we need to know what's going on. And yes, we may be working with other organizations at the CIA, this person, that person, and we're using some information, but we have to really know what's going on in ours. But the EUI that they have and what they follow through is so much better than what the USA does right now. So that's one of the biggest reasons they're actually first in that. And a lot of the governance and ethics that they're saying right now, we need to start following that. So they were 10 steps ahead, and we were not quite there. And they were honest and transparent about what they were doing. And that's the difference right there.
So do you also think that a cultural a cultural barrier that North America is going to have to face related to issues of, privacy and quote unquote government surveillance and things of that nature?
Well, I think it's already here, whether we like it or not. It is here
Right.
now. And I think they were ahead in that process, but they do have laws in effect where they outline what they do. And I'll cover that at the end because that shows that they are more structured and we're following that as well. So they kind of are the leaders of that, whereas we're not.
Got it.
Does that
Thank you
answer
so
that
much.
question? You're
Yeah,
welcome.
definitely. It's just been something I've been thinking about for a long time, in terms of how, um, how are we going to be able to, get buy-in from Americans around things of that nature when we as to me as a culture tend to see that as you know a surveillance issue and a violation of privacy when in reality to me a lot of the stuff that it's used for is like to help with safety. They're not so I was just curious about that, but so thank you, definitely.
It's for safety and it's for them to, make sure that they have a country that's safe and whatnot, the same thing that we should have as well. But
Hmm.
when we're looking into your life solely and dissecting it and making sure that, maybe you're part of a group who who makes bombs. That's an exaggeration, but you know what I mean? And they're looking for different people. That's when I think it should be used. But I think if you're going to have some, if you're going to start a project and you just need to know that you need to be transparent, you need to have the governance there and be updated. Don't do it in secret. I mean, some things are in secret that need to be, and then they come out, but there has to be transparency at that point. You don't start it and then have the transparency come up 10 years later. That's not the
Mm,
right thing to do. Okay,
Thank you so much.
no
Yeah,
problem.
thank you.
Any other questions? Anybody else? All right, let's go on to the next one. So when an AI denies, this is an example, good example too. So when AI denies a loan, flags someone as a security risk, or recommends a medical treatment, affected individuals deserve to know why. Transparency is not just about a technical feature in what they're doing, but it's a matter of accountability and trust. So for instance, if when we talk about security, you know, they deny loans and things like that. I mean, that's been going on for some time anyway, but they do have some practices that are not quite as transparent as they should be. And let's just say I went in and I had no job, obviously, and or if I did, and maybe my pay was very minimal, and I looked a certain way, and would I qualify for that? You know, those kinds of things. So you shouldn't make those judgments, but they are made. And then also, if dependent on your race, those are judgments there. And they used to do that more before. I don't think it's quite as bad right now, but in certain areas, it is. So the black box problem, many high performing AI models um, are opaque by design, but they achieve impressive accuracy with offering no human readable explanation for their inputs. They create serious
Mm,
accountability gaps into high stake decisions. So, what that means is whenever you're working on something and you're designing a product, you outline it, you know what you want to do, right? You decide this is my statement of work, this is what we're going to do, and this is a group that we're going to target, or we're going to include everybody. And we want to be transparent in what we're doing. We need to document that. So let's just say we had 10,000 people that we interviewed, and they knew that we were asking their information and their demographic information and their income and their race and all of the things that they should know beforehand. And it shouldn't matter what your race is, what you make. Well, whenever you're going to get a loan, of course, that's always an issue. And it shouldn't matter um, what area of town you live in, if it's the best side of town or it's not. It should be based on your credit. It should be based on your ability to pay back, those kinds of things. That's where transparency comes in. That way, there's no misunderstanding, and you can't be boxed into another area because people feel like that's where you belong and you don't deserve to get these kinds of loans because of your background, your social, economic, and different things. And that's what we want transparency on, because if they're doing those kinds of things, we need to know why. So if you get denied a loan, you want to ask, why was I denied the loan? What is it that prohibited me from getting it? And they'll tell you, or else they'll say it was, I don't know, your credit score, or you don't have enough money, or you have too many loans. If they can tell you what it is, that's transparency right there, because they're telling you. If they can't explain it, why, then that's a problem. Well, I'm not really sure. The algorithms gives me this. Well, that might be fine, but what's defining those algorithms? Those kinds of things. And domain experts can validate the reasoning on how it sounds. So see, whenever you're unsure, always ask the question. That is your right to know why you are, you know, you're denied. And especially when it comes to any kind of medical, that's your business, not everybody's, but if they're using it in something, they need to let you know. Um, because I'm that 1% that they don't have blood like me as an example, and whatever issue I have going on, they need to be transparent because I'm that 1% and I didn't give them authority to use me as their guinea pig as we move forward when they have a lot of other people. So I can see when you're doing a comparison and you want to make sure things are equal, but you have to be transparent. You have to document what you're doing, why you're doing it, and what the outcome should be. Not algorithms where it comes out where if they're making below this amount of money, 50,000, we're not going to give it to them because they're of this race and their jobs are such. It should be based on your history of what you can and can't do, those kinds of things. So it's a lot of stuff. So I think as long as there's a lot of transparency, it should be fine. So I like the EUAI Act, and that's the European one. It mandates explainability requirements for high-risk AI systems in areas, credit scoring, hiring, law enforcement, affected individuals that the legal right to receive a meaningful explanation and not just a score. So have you ever gone to a job interview too, where you were interviewed and they're checking off the boxes as you're getting interviewed, like, okay, we agree with this, and oh yeah, and then they're writing notes on all that, and then they go through and they, let's say they have 1 to 50, and even though you may have pretty much all those qualifications, but they're writing in other things and your score is lower than that, then you don't get moved to that next level to re-interview. There's a lot of anomalies that we have to look at because that makes a difference. And so, those are examples of things that are happening right now too, even when people go for job interviews. Even, I'll just give you an example. One of my clients went for an interview, more than qualified, I will just say. And um, because he's getting close to retirement, he's not the perfect fit for them. So they don't know if they're going to have him 1 year or 2 years. But the bottom line is they need to be honest about that. You didn't get to the second level. So it's those kinds of things. And they should, so that's age discrimination right there. That's number one. Number two, they wanted somebody younger who was going to stay. And number three, they didn't know how to tell him. So they just said he just didn't get this position. This is the fifth time that person has applied for this job, and this has occurred. So, and they hired a person with no experience. So see, you have to make sure that you have some balance in there, and you have to be able to say why you hired that person. There has to be transparency. So again, those algorithms need to be consistent. So this is an example of things that happen all the time. And now we have a lot of interconnections with many of these entities who communicate. And I think that's great in some areas. So it's just being transparent in what they're doing, and you're being ethical about what you are doing in those areas. So explainable AI tools like Lime and SHAP attempt to approximate explanations for the black box models. See, and identify which features drive a particular decision. Again, you can have a black box problem, but if you have 6 people in a room who are deciding the fate of 4 of you based on their questionnaire and their own biases, is that really ethical and fair? And you want to know why you didn't get to that level because of your age, you were discriminated, you're going to retire. That's an assumption, doesn't mean you're retiring, but it's those kinds of things. We have to make sure that we are transparent in those kinds of things. So Any questions on this particular slide? Okay.
Nope. All good.
Nope. Okay. So I don't know if anybody's ever had that opportunity where you've been discriminated and ask the question and they never really give you the right answer. They kind of dance around it and it's more frustrating, you know. But when you're part of the group and you've gone through that interview process, and I know because I've been on the other side of that where we're interviewing, and when you're going through and you're checking off the boxes and that person fits all of that, that really is where you should be putting your effort into that person. If you want to hire somebody, also in my opinion, is that you can you can hire somebody, start them off at that next level so they can gear up to be your senior person and not your junior person who has no experience. So it's those kinds of things. So that's the black box problem because we're not always transparent about what we're doing. We make decisions. We don't say exactly why we chose. We say it amongst ourselves, but we don't say it out loud. And that's a bad thing too. I mean, and some of those things may hurt people's feelings, but really it's not about feelings, just understanding why you didn't get the job and just being honest and transparent. And honestly, if somebody didn't want to hire me and they would say, you know, you don't have enough experience, you haven't been in the job long enough, or you're overqualified. I've had that before. And you're not the right person for us because you're going to leave in a year or two. See, that's their mindset. They don't know if I'm going to leave in a year or two. I will decide if I'm going to leave in a year or two. But if you're going for a job as that example, then you want them to be transparent as to why you didn't get it. So I think that, you know, those are some of the issues. And that's why there's always lawsuits and things like that, because they're not transparent and they weren't the right candidate. And it's not always about the experience. It's maybe not the right personality. They don't think in a certain way that you need to think in some of these jobs. So, you know, it'd be like me applying for a welder's job. And I have nothing against welders. I think that everybody is good at what they're doing. But honestly, I would not be surprised if they did even hire me. I don't even know how to use the tools. I would have gone there maybe because I needed a job and I needed to feed my family as an example. You know, and I was going to try anything I could to make sure that I have an income to support my family. Even if it's something that I wouldn't want to do, but I would try because you got to put food on the table. Those are two extremes, but those are the same things. Does that make sense? Anybody ever experienced that? Nope. Okay, next. Okay, human in the loop. Human in the loop design ensures that the humans retain meaningful oversight and decision-making authority, especially when AI outputs affects people's lives. Especially that that one little area, especially when AI outputs affects people's lives. The key question is not whether a human is present, but whether a human judgment is genuinely influential. So, as we move forward, and let's just say, moving forward, if my company decides that as we interview people, I'm going to make sure that you're on your computer at home. We can interview, and I'm going to interview you, and I'm going to have my AI person listening to you as well. And maybe I wasn't there, but the AI person was interviewing you and asked you a bunch of questions, and without my human judgment decided that you are not the person for that job because of A, B, and C. But we don't know what that A, B, and C is when we leave it up to AI to do all of that unless we program it to give it what it wants. And you're authentic in everything that you're putting in there. So you know what the output is going to be. When you just kind of do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but you're not transparent, those become issues. They are issues, and that's what people forget. So AI decides and acts without human review, appropriate only for low stakes, reversible decisions with proven accuracy across all populations for full automation. So see, nobody's checking it to make sure that it is accurate. You always want to make sure that when you have some oversight, people oversight, eye oversight to see what they're doing and what the output is. And let's just say that I have the AI doing the interviews for me, and all of you interviewed for that job, and I thought maybe one of you could have been the best candidate there. But my AI thought that none of you were part of that because he didn't have all of the scope of what it should have been or what outputs I was looking for. It was based on what algorithms you put in for that AI. So you have to always remember those are a lot of things that are going on. So human on the line loop monitors the outputs, can intervene, common in content moderation and fraud detection, but intervention requires capacity and attention. We have to still be paying attention to everything. So remember when Amazon, way back when, hired and they used that automation tool, it lost a lot of jobs. I know my brother worked there. And what happened is with, let's say, Amazon, as you're pulling all of the packages and putting them in different places and sorting it, then you have the machines being able to move and process faster than you and I can do it at that time, quicker. Mistakes happen though, because it's still, even though they're AI generated, but if you don't give them everything that they need to do and that they follow what should the other parts of the task that the human person would know that the AI generated would not know, you have to always be giving them that information too and uploading the information so they understand. But the human connection and the AI, they're two different things. It's like two different minds. One can think and has compassion. One just does what you say and looks through certain things. So this is where you look at the other portion of it. That's where humans make the final call required for high-stake domains, medical diagnosis, parole decisions, hiring, loan approvals. So I know that a lot of businesses are looking into even medical diagnosis. They use AI to question and to ask certain things. And I know that a lot of doctors are doing that. And I'm not saying anything is wrong with that. It helps them make their job more efficient. But they also have to use the knowledge that they have and went to school with and make sure that what that AI is giving you is correct and accurate, because then that can be a lawsuit in itself if they just use that and forget their own skills. That creates another issue. So there's a lot of loopholes, but a lot of it is just the human element, and that's what people are forgetting. So human constraints can shut down the system entirely, especially for weapons, critical infrastructure, and long horizon planning systems. So, you know, many, every day you look, they're doing something. They're trying out little AI people, nice robots, bringing your food or going through water, different things. So they're trying out different things to make it efficient, and where they're of course going to make some money. But if they forget the human element too, because that is the part that brings people to restaurants all the time and whatnot. So there's various ways to look at it, but you have to make sure that when you were working on a project or you were doing anything that has AI, you need to really test it to make sure that it does do what you need it to do, that the outputs are there, and most importantly, that you can defer to AI recommendations, but use your own knowledge at the same time to make sure that it's accurate. So sometimes, you can go through several AIs and you can ask one question to all of them, And you'll find that most will give you something a little bit different. Most will give you, some are good and some will give you just small pieces of it, but doesn't give you more information. You have to ask it the right way. So when you're trying them out, you just make sure that you're choosing the right thing for you and that you're still keeping that emotional part of the human side when you're providing services. So when people come in and you're doing your work and they're asking for a loan and your AI is doing its little calculations there on the side that you don't have to do anymore really because a lot of this is automated. And then you see a score. Now, is that score the score that really it should be? Or it's just that we get used to seeing that score and we forget and we just go with it. So it's just understanding, go back to the human element. And if that's not working right, then change it to work right. Any questions on those? Anybody had any experiences like that? So I'm not saying AI is not the best thing. AI is good, but knowledge is better for us as well. So that's the most important thing. So automation bias is a known risk. That's the risk. Humans tend to defer to AI recommendations when they have evidence the system is wrong. The true human oversight requires training, time, and organizational incentives to act on disagreements. So, your experience that you provide on your jobs and what you do all the time means something. So, don't forget that it means something. It's when we get lackadaisy and we don't want to think about it, and I just want AI to do it, and it may be right or it may be wrong. It's who's looking at that information, and that is the difference. You have to make sure that you are looking at. And don't forget that the human mind is very smart. You have a lot of retention in there. Use it. So when you're uncertain, make sure that you are using it to look at whatever is provided. Like I say, I'm always on AI all the time too. I look up stuff and I look up different ones and I just want to see what they each say. Some are identical on each thing with a little bit of a difference, but I also use my knowledge and experience of what I know to change something in that prompt because of my experience, because of what I can do. And that's what you have to remember. The human mind is very smart. AI is smarter in a different way and faster, but it's in the outputs and inputs that you give it. So remember that. Any other questions on this? I know I'm beating a dead horse here, but
No, I think because I think for me, it's the constant tension is around is like AI the problem, is humanity the problem, is it a little bit of both? And the way that I think about it, that this reminds me of, is like when I'm using AI to do something, like I'll be like, okay, build this for me, or fill this out, figure this out for me, or solve my problem for me. It's all about the human review, you know? If you're just gonna go, and that just kind of reminds me of like, I don't know, just like doing any research that I was learning when I was in school is like you check your sources, So I've had it, build up resumes for me, but then I go and I read what is actually in the resume and I go, okay, this was predictive in what they thought I was saying about my job, but now I'm going to go in and actually fix it, that to me is like that human element that's kind of required.
that's exactly how you should do it and use it. Exactly. It is there to help you. If you have a business, something that you're doing and it's going to expedite, and you know that you're putting in these things and it's giving you the right output. That's oversight. That's the human element. Yes, you're right. This is correct. This is not. Got to figure out why that's coming out this way. That is the difference. I did want to say one other thing is when I talked about Amazon's uh, recruiting tool, I didn't say that, but Amazon had a recruiting tool back in 2018, and it systematically downgraded resumes from women due to historical hiring data favoring men. And so they were highlighting how AI can scale existing biases. And back then, if you think about it, and that's 2018, nothing but men worked for Amazon, very few women. And I thought that was very interesting. Healthcare algorithms, again, that's another one. Demonstrated systematic allocation of fewer resources to Black patients. So, you can go in and do things to fit however it is that you want it to fit, but really you have to pay attention. That's a human element. So why is it that so many only men are getting hired and not women? Why are Black people being treated differently than white people? Stuff like that. And facial recognition was significantly higher error rates for people of color and women. So, see, those are all the things. And that goes back to 2018 when they started doing this. And we're now in what, 2026. So they did things without putting it out there. Now, this is where the governance portion of it is where everybody needs to know about it and trust your judgment. You know your business better than anybody else. So it's okay to disagree, um, but true human oversight is key. It is key. And I think it's just important that we do that. So another risk that was really interesting for AI systems back then was for youth mental health. Conversational AI is marketed as companions to minors in distress. So lacking clinical training and the ability to assess suicidal intent and recognize danger. So see, they're talking to AI and AI is giving them, telling them whatever it is they need to hear, but not in the most positive way. And that was a high suicide rate for young youth. And that's kind of scary. So, job displacements, automation driven by AI, for employment for various sectors. You know what? There may be job automation sectors. It's changed through the years, but there's opportunity for people to work in AI and to do other things too. So it's not going to eliminate everybody's job, but you have the ability to move forward. Use AI, but use your brain as well because you know better than anybody else what is in your field, your knowledge, and you can share and help other people. So always remember that. Okay, next one. Any questions on that? So ethical red flags in AI systems. Failures rarely suddenly appear. They usually are preceded by observable warning signs. So learning to recognize the red flags is the most practical skill an AI practitioner can develop. So when you're developing things, notice the outcomes. Like I keep saying, I think I kind of keep reiterating this stuff in all the other areas, but it's the same. Performance metrics differ significantly across demographic groups. So there's a sign of bias still, even in the most model will appear accurate. So, you know, everything you read or everything you see, a lot of it is good and a lot of it you have to distinguish. Use your own judgment and follow through and find other information and check. So you don't know who's writing the algorithms, you don't know who's doing the AI work, you don't know who's output, and there's a lot of people who are out there who just have information and it's not correct. And then that's when it becomes problematic. So, if you're authentic in your work and you know what you're doing and you stand by it based on A, B, and C, and you provide that oversight, you're doing a great job. But if I just went out there and put something up that says that all women can cook and clean and don't need a college degree because AI can do it for me. Would you believe that statement? No. Most women are educated now. Anybody can cook and clean. It's just not a woman's job. Those kinds of things. Do you see? So if I put that out there as an example, can you imagine the response I would get from other women and other people because it really discriminates? Do you see? It's not just a woman's job to do those things, but it's making sure that that what we put out there is ethical, it's true. That may have been true back in the 1950s, 40s, 30s, but that's not how life is right now. Women work, men work, children work, you know? So it's just you have to really read and form your own decisions. If it doesn't seem right, follow up, educate yourself, ask questions. Data without consent, training data or inputs were collected without informed consent that are being used for purposes beyond what users agreed to. There again, whenever they're giving you this, well, how many people has it been? It's like medication. How many people have been in these trials? How many people, men and women, have had positive effects from this medication? And really, how long did the trial go for? You have to ask just those kinds of questions, and they should be able to answer it. If they can't answer it and they're saying, well, we really didn't do it quite like that, we just tested a few people, but this is what AI or somebody else says it does, and that's our belief. Well, that could be your belief, and I'm telling you to change your beliefs, but question it. Just question things. If you don't agree, question it. But there's so many positive things about AI. People who make sure that they follow through the processes, that the outcomes and inputs and outcomes are where they need to be, and they're assisting people. Those are the things that you want to look at so that you know that you're getting the right information that you need. Unexplainable decisions. No one on the team can articulate why the system produces a given output, especially dangerous in healthcare, finance, or justice. So it's just using your brain to know what is right or wrong still. And question if it doesn't seem right or it doesn't resonate with you, then go with your gut instinct because we're always right. So, rubber stamp oversight. Human reviewers approve AI decisions at near 100% rate without documented scrutiny. So, there again, if you don't have oversight and somebody is not reviewing what you should be doing, then I would make sure that you would question it a little bit further. That's all. You know, there's a lot of great people who do great jobs, who make amazing programs, who follow through. And I'm telling you, there's great people, even in our organization, who do wonderful things. But learn and listen. Trust the ones that you know who are doing a good job. The others where there's just information out there and you're not sure where it's coming from, question it. That's just simple things. You can do that. Deployment, timelines, override ethics, reviews, bias audits, stakeholders consultations. Ship it now, fix it later. That is a no-no. Don't do that. Don't speed over safety. You know what I mean? It's kind of like if I had a warehouse and I wanted to get some products out quickly, and I hired four robotic individuals, robotics, to do part of the work. But they were programmed to only do A, B, and C, but I threw in a D in there and they didn't know about it. So then it confuses what's going on and they can only do what you train it to do. This is where the human element comes in. You have to be able to know that if you're adding things to your AIs or making changes, you need to follow through the system and document what you're doing and make sure that it works. It's always about being transparent, being authentic, and being ethical in anything that you're doing. So missing voices, affected communities, especially vulnerable or marginalized groups, were not consulted during design, testing, or deployment. That really is a big deal. That all needs to be part of the process. So anybody who is even a project manager, you know that if you have a statement of work and then you have all your deliverables that pertain to whatever that project is, and you make changes, you know that you have to go in and add those so that you are accurate in what you're doing. And yes, you might have to pay more money or it wasn't part of what you had to do, but this is part of the thinking process. And this is the part of making sure that the job is corrected and that you are authentic in what you say and what you're doing. So those are just little tidbits, but I think that they're important. Any questions on this? Okay, is this the last one? I think, okay. Applying an ethical evaluation framework. Ask. Always ask. Don't be afraid to ask. Assess. Is it working or is it not? Monitor it. Make sure you're monitoring and address it. If something is wrong, address it. Don't let it go out when it has a problem. Ask, assess, monitor, and address it. If they don't want to address it and just say, no, let's forget it, we're just going to push through, then this is a very smart person who will document and say, this is what I said for you to do. You chose not to do it and you sent it out. The onus is on that person because they chose to do it. You said, this is not ready. There's issues that are still going on and we need to fix it. Who is the right person for that decision? You're the ethical person because you're saying, I'm not going to do it because something is wrong. It needs to be fixed. We can't put it out there. And if they push it, and that's their choice as an owner, then fine. But they are the responsible ones. And I would certainly document it and say, I said blah, 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 blah on this day, and you disagreed and said you were going to go ahead and manufacture it, whether I liked it or not. And that's what was going to happen. It covers you and puts the onus back on that person, but you want to make sure that each time that you're looking at everything and don't miss things, It's just you want to make sure as you're reviewing processes that they're the correct output that you want. You want the input, output, make sure it's correct. And when you're doing that and you're on top of it, and when you're not sure on something, ask the question, find out. Any questions on this framework? Okay. Next.
Actually, Heather writes, I often wonder who will be the human in the loop when those who were around before AI have left.
Who will be the
The
let me see.
human in the loop.
Well, there should have been a human in the loop, and they should have gone back to a person who knew what was going on. But most important, the documentation should be there. If they did not leave documentation and did not follow a process, then that speaks volumes. The framework is all about documenting. You're asking the questions. This is what we're doing. We assessed. This is what we assess. This is what we need. We're monitoring it. It's still working, or it fails on every third process. And how are we going to address it? Everything should be documented. So whether one person is there and handled it and leaves, as long as you document what is going on in anything that you're doing, somebody should always be able to pick it up because it should be documented and written, period. And if it's not, that's a shame on the person because then you're going to have to backtrack to see what had occurred. And if they did have some documentation initially, then you have to kind of backtrack and see what they did and then start moving forward a little bit. So documentation is key. Did that answer your question, Heather?
It also makes me think, so this was a couple weeks ago, but I saw the head of Anthropic who like had, was interviewed saying, oh, white collar jobs are gonna be like obsolete. He did like a follow-up interview that was about where they asked him, okay, so like if that's the case, like what should people be looking into? And I found it very interesting as like a history teacher and a humanist that his response was very much you want somebody who's like studying the humanities because to me that like made a lot of sense because it's language models
Mhm.
and like learning how to be able to humanize the inputs to then make the outputs as successful as possible for human, consumers or clients or whatever. I thought it was very interesting that, one of the main proprietors of AI technology is like, go study humanities, go learn language, you know, learn communications. Um, and to me that kind of that's where my head went with Heather's comment is when the people who were doing a quote, for lack of a better term, a more analog type of business place, they're
Mhm.
retired, they're gone. Potentially, who may replace them are people who study language framing and psychology and communication, anthropology, maybe even, um, to be able to work to get the human outputs that by having really uh, strategic, language inputs is kind of what I'm thinking, is the hope, at least.
Well, that makes sense too. Again, it also goes back to what was documented before as we move forward.
Hmm.
It's a different skill, but also understanding how we got to where we're at now.
Yeah.
When you understand how you got to this point from A to F, that makes sense. So when you come in and you're new to this and you're looking at something different so you can move forward with it, it takes a different thought process as well. But there's always a one thought process that everybody has to follow. You've got to still follow the process. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You still need processes in there and you still need people overlooking. And it just, it depends on what it is exactly. But I'd say it's kind of like yesterday, I think I was talking to somebody about, I was at a baseball game and we were talking about the Jetsons. And I don't know if any of you knew about them, these cartoons where it showed that you were up. And
Hmm.
so we were saying, look at how much it's come in time, how they've had all of these things occur. So we've progressed. We have to be knowledgeable, but also we also need to be heart centric in what we're doing as well. And I think that's what people are getting away from too.
Yeah.
So that's important. And documentation is still important because when you make changes, if you don't follow the script, so to speak, and then you go off kilter there just a tad, it throws everything off. So you always want to know. It's still documentation is still important, no matter what.
Yeah.
And even when you have language models and you're outlining and defining them, they need to keep that there so you can follow it as well. So everybody understands what they did and how to get there and where you're going. That's my that's my opinion. Did that answer your question?
She said, I'm talking from someone who had the experience versus someone who takes over with no experience, only using existing documents, but it's also midnight where Heather is and she has to go.
He has to go.
Yeah, Heather, the person who's writing in the chat, because
Mhm.
it's midnight where she is.
Okay.
We are
Okay.
a
Oops, I'm
smidgen over
sorry.
time. Thank you,
I
Heather.
think so. Thank you. But you get the gist of it though, Heather. It's just documentation, following through, making sure that you understand what's going on as you move forward. Anytime you make a change, whether it's in a program, anthology, different things, you still have to document. So when somebody leaves, somebody else can pick up and then have that knowledge. I hope that was helpful. I think, was this the last one?
No, there's one more. Yeah,
Okay, I'll
this
make it
one.
quick. Evaluate through human lens. Identify the source of the bias, always through the data design and deployment. And that's what you want to keep so you know exactly what is happening. Apply privacy principles. Distinguish between meaningful consent from superficial compliance and recognize when data practices cross ethical lines. Demand explainability, like I say, if you don't know, ask. Design human level, match the human oversight to the stakes and reverse it AI-driven decisions and spot ethical red flags. And I think just paying attention and knowing will make the difference. And that concludes for today. I hope it was helpful. And I know it's a lot of reiteration, but really we have to understand. Thank you, Lexa. I'm glad you liked. Thank you. Anybody else? Well, thank you. I hope this was helpful. And governance is really, really one of the biggest things moving forward in 2026. So we need to be on top of it. And I'm excited to be part of it. So it's always learning.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bernadette. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Thank you for letting me talk a bunch.
No problem. I appreciate it. Any
Yeah,
knowledge is power. Everything that you learn and do helps you as you move forward.
yeah. I always like to say education is liberation, right?
That's right. Very much
Um,
so.
Thank you so much, Bernadette, and everyone has taken off for the day. So I will talk to you soon.
Okay.
Stay
Thank you.
safe.